is only for parliamentarians. उसको डिस्कनेक्ट करो। जवाब क्या हाँ चले यहाँ से बोलो 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 मेरा बाइट
पीछे में बैठ जाते हैं।
I'll go.
क्या करेंगे?
फरहान
हाँ तो मैं
अभी हमने खड़े रहते हैं मतलब सारा ये सेटल
आप यहाँ पे कुछ रख दें
जी मेरे
स्पीच लाइव जाने के बाद डिटेल इंसर्शन ये अभी सब नॉन सीरियस बैठे
डिटेल से मैं तो बना दूँ
यार नहीं ये लोग नॉन सीरियस बैठे हुए फ़ायदा कोई नहीं ये उस वक्त बनाएंगे जिस वक्त स्मूथ सब काम कर रहे होंगे मैं वो करूँगा कोई इनिशिएटिव नहीं ले रहा बताएं मुझे यार मैंने क्या करना
क्या चीज़ लेना बताओ मुझे तो मैं क्या
5 मिनट के लिए मैंने क्या
ओके आइए ना बताओ जिले लेट हिम डू इट करने दे उसको
गंदा जाएगा फ़ायदा कोई नहीं गंदा जाएगा गंदा जाएगा फ़ायदा कोई नहीं मैं तो बनाना चाह रहा हूँ ना
ये मेरे पास मैंने तो चेक भी करना है
आप रखें आप सब नॉन सीरियस बैठे हैं मुझे सिर्फ 5 मिनट चाहिए
अपने आप को व्हाट्सएप कर
मालिक साहब ने पूछा कैसे Yeah. Who's sitting here? You're sitting here? No, newspaper people. He just gone there. Somebody sitting here. They got their camera here. यार आ जाओ भाई ये तो मैं लाइव कर रहा हूँ
कैमरे वाले की बैटरी की जरूरत नहीं है ना आप लोग कैमरे पे है ना
हमारा तो फोकस है ऑन कैमरा से
Colleagues, as chair of the Your Party parliamentary group of Pakistan, colleagues, can we get seated? We're behind schedule. We've got 2 hours to finish the event. So, can I just say, as being chair of the Your Party parliamentary group on Pakistan, it is a pleasure to welcome you all here today in Parliament in Committee Room 14 on the International Conference on Kashmir. And as the Party parliamentary group on Pakistan, it is a real pleasure and an honour to have as our keynote speaker today the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Shah Mahmood Qureshi. And it is a real pleasure to welcome members of civil society, mayors, councillors from here in the United Kingdom, from all parts of the United Kingdom. But not just the United Kingdom. It's a pleasure to welcome guests, distinguished guests from around the world, including from Malaysia. And it's great to have Dr. Sheikh Ahmed Awad, you sir, to join us here today from the Malaysian Consultative Council. And it is a real pleasure to have parliamentarians from Pakistan. Members of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee, it is a real pleasure to have you here, and it's always a pleasure when we interact with you across the Parliament through the spectrum when we visit your great country. And of course, it's great to have our brilliant British parliamentarians from all political parties, from the House of Commons, from the House of Lords, and from the European Parliament. It's great to have colleagues from all political parties here joining us today in this event. The objective of today's conference is to deliberate and look at the human rights situation in Jammu and Kashmir, taking into account the numerous reports published by organizations.
क्या सारे नाम चुप करेंगे प्लीज मेहरबानी करके जरा प्लीज सुने ना
Colleagues, can I just say, we are short on time, and if colleagues can be quiet whilst we finish, go through the introduction and move on to our keynote speakers. So let me start again. The objective of today's conference is to deliberate and look at the human rights situation in Jammu and Kashmir, taking into account the numerous reports published by organisations such as the Geneva-based UN Office of the High Commissioner of Human Rights, international aspect from Amnesty International, and various other international non-governmental organisations. And you know what? It is absolutely vital that this long, historic, outstanding issue is resolved in accordance with international rules. In this case, the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1948, which makes it very clear that the issue of Kashmir is that Kashmir is a disputed territory between India and Pakistan, and that the solution to the issue of Kashmir lies in taking into account the wishes of the people of Kashmir. And that is what every Kashmiri wants around the world, to be given the opportunity to decide their own destiny like every other citizen does in the world. And the longer the issue is unresolved, the more reports come to light of real human rights concerns in Jammu and Kashmir. And can I now move on to introducing the panel that we have at the top table and the format of today's conference. If I start to my left, we have, sorry, the right, we have the former Prime Minister of AJK, Barrister Sultan Mahmood, who many people know who often visits Parliament, engaged with parliamentarians across the board. We have the former Australian Senator, Leah Rhiannon. Welcome to have you here today, madam. We have Senator Sayed Shibli Faraz, Leader of the House from the Senate of Pakistan. So good to have you here today. We have somebody who needs no introduction, the High Commissioner of Pakistan, Mohammed Naveed Zakaria, who's been here before 10 years ago, but great to have you back as a High Commissioner.
आज़ाद कश्मीर के अपोजिशन लीडर चौधरी यासीन साहब।
I do not see the opposition leader there, so I apologise to the opposition leader from AJK. So we have the leader of the opposition from AJK. Of course, we have the Foreign Minister of Pakistan. We have then Sardar Masood, who needs no introduction as the President of Azad Jammu and Kashmir. We then have His Excellency Mr. Bondevik, the former Prime Minister of Norway. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. We have my parliamentary colleague, David Abrahams, the Chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Kashmir. We then have somebody who also needs no introduction, Senator Musharraf Hussain Syed, who's the Chair of the Foreign Relations Committee of Pakistan. And then further to the left, we have another former Prime Minister of AJK, Sardar Atiq Khan. Pleasure to have you here today. And also, we have the Dr. Rihanna bin Abdullah from the OIC here with us today. So without further ado, the format of today's discussion is as follows. We'll start with the Foreign Minister of Pakistan speaking to us for 15 minutes. After that, we'll have a statement from the Leader of the House of Senate from Pakistan. And then we'll open up to comments from parliamentarians. I'll take 3 to 4 comments from parliamentarians from both sides. And I would say to my colleagues here, looking at the numbers that we have a large number of parliamentarians from both sides. If comments can be kept to 2 minutes. And after that, we will then move on to the other panelists that we have. So without further ado, it gives me a real pleasure to call upon His Excellency, the Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, to speak to us today at this international conference on Kashmir. The floor is yours.
Honourable Member of Parliament, Chairman, all parties, Parliamentary Group on Pakistan, Honourable Member of Parliament, David Abrahams, Chairperson, all parties, Parliamentary Group on Kashmir, President Azad Jammu and Kashmir, Sardar Masood Khan, Honourable Members of the House of Lords, House of Commons and the European Parliament, my colleagues, Chairman of the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, Honourable Members of the Committee, friends, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. It is encouraging and invigorating to see such a large assembly of supporters of the Kashmir cause gathered here today. I wish to thank you, sir, for your kind invitation and for organizing this event. I wish to acknowledge with gratitude the presence of Honourable Kjell von de Witt, former Prime Minister of Norway, Honourable Lee Vernon, former Senator of Australia, Datu Sri Sheikh Ahmed Awan, representative of Malaysian Consultative Council of Islamic Organization, and Dr. Rehana Binti Abdullah, Vice Chair, IPCHR, and Mechanism for Monitoring Human Rights Situation in the Indian occupied Kashmir. A very special thanks to the All Parties Parliamentary Group on Kashmir for speaking out against human rights abuses in Indian occupied Kashmir. By calling on the Indian government to inter-alia to repeal the draconian laws to ban use of pellet guns, open jails for inspection, and initiate a comprehensive public investigation into identities of bodies in mass and unmarked graves. The group has laid bare some of the worst human rights abuses being perpetrated in Indian occupied Kashmir. I feel empowered to be with you, both in my personal capacity as a Democrat and ardent supporter of the Kashmir's right of self-determination and as the foreign minister of a country that remains a party to the Jammu and Kashmir dispute. We are here to express solidarity and make common cause with all those who love and value freedom, despise oppression, and stand up for what is just and right. In Indian occupied Jammu and Kashmir, humanity is bleeding, the valley is burning, people are distressed. Under the heavy burden of alien occupation that grows suffocating with each passing day. Each passing day brings sordid news of rape, murder, killing, and grievous injury inflicted upon hapless civilian population by Indian occupation forces armed to their teeth and unshackled by any restraint of civility or law, reason, or compassion. Each passing moment unfolds new trials and tribulations, new tragedies and traumas. Yet, with each passing second, the reality of the Indian occupation becomes self-evident, that it is an occupation of a territory and a people alienated from and alien to India. And that no matter what depraved barbarities the occupation unleashes, Kashmiris will be masters of their own destiny. What, my friends, is the Kashmiris' cardinal sin, for which for 70 years now they are facing so heavy a retribution? Why with such surgical precision is an entire generation of young men and women being killed, blinded, maimed, and raped? Why is there a deafening silence, dogged denial, blanket censorship, and callous indifference to the plight of innocents in what is acclaimed to be the world's largest democracy? What is the reason? Why is this exceptional cruelty? It is because they seek their legitimate right to self-determination granted to them by numerous UN Security Council resolutions, or because their hearts and minds, bodies and souls yearn for living their lives as they want. Ladies and gentlemen, self-determination is not a gift or endowment. It is the most fundamental of rights, the most inalienable of freedoms. Some 70 years ago, when the United Nations was born out of the ashes of the World War, this right, this basic tenet of international law, was embedded into the Charter of the United Nations and repeated in subsequent affirmations the international covenants on civil and political rights and on social, economic, and cultural rights. 70 years ago, also the world adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, outlining individuals' rights and freedoms that every human being is entitled to, irrespective of color, race, caste, or creed. About the same time, the Indian military marched into the valley of Kashmir, triggering what has been the longest dispute on the agenda of the United Nations. For 70 years, the idealism and promise of the United Nations, the prospect of the collective conscience of man rising to the occasion and acting in unison, has repeatedly hit against the hard rock of realpolitik, the harsh reality of Indian occupation. It was India that committed to holding a free and fair plebiscite to determine the will of the Kashmiri people. It was Indian leadership that repeatedly relied on its solemn commitments, choosing instead the destructive path of genocidal repression. I have 5 questions. 1. Where in the world will you find such a heavy concentration of armed forces equipped with draconian laws meant to institutionalize violence by these forces against an unarmed civilian population? I'm referring to the Armed Forces Special Powers and Public Safety Acts that give legal cover to armed personnel to assume at once the mantle of law enforcer, judge, jury, and executioner, and act with complete and unfettered impunity. Even under these laws, the central government has failed to grant approval for prosecution of a single case of human rights abuse. Not a single prosecution, not one conviction. 2. Where in the world do you find mass graves? In its 2009 report, Buried Evidence, the NGO International People's Tribunal and Association of Parents of Disappeared Persons investigated hundreds of mass graves throughout occupied Jammu and Kashmir. It concluded that the bodies unearthed were of indigenous Kashmiri Muslims who had been killed by Indian occupation forces on the false pretext that they were infiltrators. 3. Where do you find mass rape and sexual abuse being used as an instrument of torture? The Kunan Poshpura incident that led to gang rape of over 100 innocent women by Indian army personnel back in 1991 is without parallel in modern history. Its victims still cry out for justice. 4. Where is justice for 8-year-old Asifa Banu of Katwa, who was brutally raped to death? In India, processions were taken out in favor of the rapists. Elected members of government spoke out in their defense, and concerted efforts are being made, reportedly, to discredit the evidence and exonerate the criminals. 5. Under which canon of fundamental law is blinding of innocent protesters by use of pellet guns a justified action? How is the use of pellet guns justified against 20-month-old Hiba? Amnesty International's report using site in Kashmir records 88 cases of deliberate blinding out of thousands of pellet guns victims. The UN OHCHR report cites 6,221 people injured by pellet guns between July 2016 to February 2017, including 728 with eye injury. As if all this was not enough, there is credible evidence to suggest that India intends to permanently alter Jammu and Kashmir's demographic profile. Efforts are underway to amend or do away with Article 370 of the Indian Constitution, stripping away whatever little autonomy Indian occupied Kashmir has on paper. Even while suppressing the Kashmir's valid and just aspirations, India has relied on a smokescreen of integratory goals and the fundamentally flawed false narratives, deceits and assertions to paint the Kashmiri struggle as terrorism, sponsored by Pakistan and supported by few in the valley. Each time the human rights situation in occupied Kashmir deteriorates, India ratchets up tensions along the line of control. In the name of stopping terrorists killing civilians on both sides of the line of control, even as it forces continues to perpetrate the most heinous acts of terror imaginable. Each time it finds the going getting tough, it diverts domestic and international opinion by breaking up tensions with Pakistan. Not any longer. Truth is not always the most convenient fiction. Reality has a way of manifesting itself, fact has a way of coming out. Last year, for the first time, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights published an 1850-page report on the human rights situation in Kashmir, notably in Indian occupied Kashmir. It chronicles in great detail instances of arbitrary and excessive use of force, arrests, torture, sexual violence, restrictions on freedom of expression, and reprisals against defenders of human rights over the eventful two-year period from 2016 to mid-2018. It underscores that 145 were killed and nearly 10,000 injured in this period due to excessive use of force, including bullets, metal pellets, and chemical shells by the Indian occupation forces. The report inter alia calls on both Pakistan and India to fully respect Kashmir's right to self-determination as enshrined in international law. Most significantly, it calls upon Human Rights Council to set up a commission of inquiry to conduct a comprehensive, independent international investigation into allegations of human rights violations in Kashmir. Pakistan has welcomed and endorsed the call for the commission of inquiry. India has reacted with traditional obduracy. On the heels of the report, the UK All-Parties Parliamentary Group on Kashmir published its own finding on the human rights situation in the Indian occupied Kashmir, echoing concerns raised in the OHCHR document and vindicating Pakistan's long-standing position. The two reports have three common features. One, they are authored by neutral observers representing informed international opinions which could not have possibly been biased in favor of one or the other side. Two, they carry scattering criticism of the Indian occupation forces, the human rights abuses their members perpetrate, and the special laws that allow such actions with impunity. Three, they build upon and reaffirm validity of the large body of research carried by NGOs such as Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Asia Watch, and the International Committee of the Red Cross. In a world replete with political expediencies and transient morality, these reports and the seminar that is being organized here today give us comfort in the fact that the conscience of humanity is not dead. That freedom-loving, just and God-fearing people the world over still care about the plight of Kashmir and are concerned. And that no doctrine of state security or sovereignty can justify heinous acts of violence. Justice may be delayed, but will not be denied. To our Kashmiri brethren, I wish to assure that they are not, nor ever will be, alone in their just struggle. That we will continue to lend to the freedom struggle every possible political, diplomatic, and moral support, and stand by their side every step of the way. To our redoubtable diaspora, I say that it is time for a charter of affirmative action. The Commission of Inquiry must be constituted at the earliest. People must be named, blamed, and shamed. Evidence must be gathered, cases must be built. Murderers, uniformed or not, indemnified or not, prosecuted. To the conscientious members of civil society everywhere, I say it is your collective responsibility to lend voice to the voiceless and give strength to the oppressed. And to the members of media, I urge objective and detailed reporting on ongoing atrocities in the court of international opinion. A higher reputational cost must be incurred by those who act with shameless, senseless disregard. If we feel nothing, say nothing, do nothing in the face of blatant inhumanity, then we are perhaps equally at fault. This apathy must end. I laud our British friends and colleagues, particularly members of all parliamentary group on Kashmir, for remaining seized of the matter and for their efforts to sensitize the British public and the world at large to the plight of the Kashmiris. The night of despair may be long, but it's not endless. The darker the night, the closer the dawn. I am convinced that the dawn of self-determination of the people of Kashmir is near. The blood of the martyrs, the sacrifice of millions, will not be in vain. I thank you.
Situation in Jammu and Kashmir on human rights on the way forward in resolving this long-standing and historic issue. The next step, which I would say to colleagues, and I'm appealing to parliamentary colleagues, we have a large number of parliamentary colleagues with not a lot of time, and brevity is a virtue. So what I would suggest is, if I take 4 parliamentarians next, 2 from the United Kingdom and 2 from Pakistan. So if I start with the first, Imran Hussain, who from Bradford, and followed by Abdullah Khan after that. You have 1 minute, 1 minute and a half.
I think we're starting with tour one, so we'll stick with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Can I firstly thank and welcome His Excellency the Foreign Minister of Pakistan to this meeting here today. There are many dignitaries, including senators, the President of Jammu and Kashmir, and the Kashmiri leadership here as well. Forgive me if I can't go through the names in the limited time I have. But I would welcome the message from yourself, sir, and I welcome the statement from the Pakistani government. And as we stand here today, let us first be clear. We stand united here today in this, the mother of all parliaments, to show solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Kashmir who continue to face and it is tragic that 70 years on, we are in the very building today where actually many of these decisions were made. And it is tragic that we have to have a continuous struggle for the sons and daughters of Kashmir. And there are 2 issues that are central to this. The first issue is the one that needs immediate action, and that is the human rights violations that continue must immediately cease, and that is something the international community has a role to play. The second issue is around self-determination, and let us be absolutely clear, we should never be shy of this. The Kashmiris are not begging the international community for self-determination. The Kashmiris do not bow their head for self-determination. The Kashmiris are demanding their birthright for self-determination. That is the starting point and premise. And we want a peaceful resolution. We want all the parties to come together, to sit round the table, and today the statement from you, sir, is a very positive and welcome stance. But ultimately, at the end, and I finish on this, self-determination and the right to determine their own future is only one people's right, that is the sons and daughters of Kashmir themselves. Thank you very much.
मैं करता हूँ.
If I may move over to the right now, if I call on Senator Asif Gurmani with us. And again, sir, if I can say to you, brevity is virtue, not a vice. A minute and a half.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It's been an honor and pleasure to be here among the distinguished ladies and gentlemen to show solidarity and express solidarity with our Kashmiri brothers and sisters.
Mic, please.
There's no mic. Shortly, I will say that since this delegation, it comprises of senators from Pakistan, from all political parties. So, meaning by that entire Pakistani nation and all political parties in Pakistan, they are on one page. They are with our Kashmiri brothers and sisters in their struggle for independence. And I would say one last word, and I will repeat that we, Pakistanis, continue to support morally, diplomatically, politically, as the Foreign Minister, Honorable Foreign Minister has said, and I fully endorse the speech, the statement here given by the Foreign Minister of Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing your views. By now, move over to Afzal Khan, my parliamentary colleague from Gorton. Is that right?
That's right.
That's right.
I welcome and thank you all for attending as a Vice Chair of APPG in Pakistan. I am delighted to be here on this occasion as we commemorate the Kashmiri Solidarity Day. Sadly, not much has changed in Kashmir. Escalating violence at the line of control and the killing of innocent civilians in Kashmir still carries on. I recall how the International People Tribunal 2009 report on the discovery of mass graves triggered discussion here in Parliament and even received coverage in British media. Unfortunately, 10 years down the line, this human tragedy is a forgotten story. Over 3,000 bodies spread across 55 villages of Bandipora, Ramoda, and Kupwara district of Indian-occupied Kashmir have been documented. The situation in Jammu and Kashmir is extremely alarming. As I have said to many thousands of our constituents across the country and to many people all over the world, as a British Kashmiri myself, I have raised this matter multiple times in Parliament. However, I have received the same response from the government time and time again. This is an issue between India and Pakistan. Regardless of the government's response, I will continue my fight for justice and provide a voice for the Kashmiri people and advocate for their right to decide future for themselves. I sincerely hope that the international community and key human rights organizations take heed of our recommendations to ensure the delivery of justice for Kashmiris. Thank you for all showing your support, and special thanks to our guest of honor, Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, and also our President of AGK, Sardar Masood Khan, and the other parliamentarians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll finally over to the right and call on Senator Sharon Raman before we finish this session and move on to the next speaker.
Very briefly, thank you very much, members of the APPKG, of course MP Rahman Chishti, other members of this group who have gathered here today, distinguished MPs and senators from Pakistan, the Foreign Minister and others. Everybody has gathered here today in an impressive and strong show of support for the Kashmiris of the valley that has been occupied for years with great impunity and violence. over time, we have seen that the Kashmiris, 3 generations of Kashmiris and more, have lived under a reign of unchecked terror. Unfortunately, the world's conscience, whether it may or may not have been dead, has not spoken out enough to end or even mitigate this terrible impunity that allows Kashmiri forces, people to be killed at the hands of Indian forces. And our foreign minister spoke of women, of mass graves, of the assaults, the rapes. I have here in front of me the chronology of what I call terrible despair. The figures are shocking. I won't repeat them, but they go into hundreds of thousands. And for all of us who have worked with human rights organizations the world over, because this crosses borders, it crosses party lines. And I'm proud to say that I am from the party of Benazir Bhutto Shaheed, who made February 5th a marker of the Day of Solidarity. And I'm also proud to say that all the parties of Pakistan and the people here in this room who pay heed to the call of Kashmir are very clear about one thing, that we are here to show moral, political, diplomatic support. We are here, secondly, to remind the world that there is no military solution to this egregious and long-standing problem, and also that peace is now the future. And to achieve any kind of sustainable peace in the region with 2 nuclear powers, India and Pakistan, there must be sustainable talks. And those talks must include the sufferings of the people of Kashmir and their end. Now, there are ways and means. I won't go into them. Time is short. So one last message. I think everyone is gathered here today to not just protest the human rights violations. They're egregious, they're deep, and they're dark, but to also remind ourselves that this dark stain in action represents a dark stain on the voice of a people, and we are grateful to this great parliament, the mother of all parliaments, whose committee rooms, whose members have always supported us and the Kashmiris, and all those people, even in India, who speak out for this violence, brutality, and untold murder of Kashmiri innocents, who have only sought, as a colleague here said, from Britain, who has only sought their own rights. And our last message is, I think this gathering demonstrates very amply and clearly that the Kashmiris are not lost, that they are not alone, and that they are not invisible, and that we will continue across the political board from many countries, especially Pakistan, and thank you, Britain, again, and other members from other countries, many, many times, for standing by these people, for standing by us, and all those who have stood by to not turn their face away.
Somebody, you've got 10 seconds.
Thank you very much, and I understand there are other speakers, so thank you very much for hearing us and for continuing.
Can I now move on to the panel? And we have Debbie Abrahams, who's the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Kashmir. So Debbie, you have 8 minutes, and I'm watching the clock because we have to get everyone in. So over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and to, on behalf of the All-Party Group for Kashmir, a sincere welcome to you, Prime Minister Qureshi. I'm on a panel of such distinguished guests, and I know that we are going to learn a lot. I wanted to mention very briefly in terms of the inquiry the All-Party Group completed last year at a similar time to the UN's investigation. This was something that we've been trying to do for the last 7 or 8 years now, and I think both reports from our all-party group, Kashmir, and the UN's report on human rights abuses, particularly in Jammu and Kashmir, really resonated with each other. In particular, as already has been mentioned, the importance that we must repeal the 1990 Armed Forces Special Powers Act, as well as amending the 1978 Public Safety Act, so that it is in line with international human rights law, particularly in relation to detentions, charging and or releasing prisoners. But I wanted to mention something specifically on the way forward, because we have been talking a lot about this. I've been talking about it for 7 or 8 years. For many of you, this will have been a lifetime. I know for my Kashmiri constituents, it is an absolute passion. It means so much to them that we address this. This isn't just about talking. This is about taking these issues forward. Their friends and families still undergoing horrendous attacks and restrictions on their lives. I believe we need to learn from elsewhere where similar types of conflict have happened and have been resolved peaceably. I'm very supportive of the previous speaker's remarks about if we are going to have a sustainable end to what is a horrendous situation on both sides of the line of control. It has to be through a sustainable peace and reconciliation process. And I was really pleased to see in both reports that this was what was suggested. So I met, as part of taking forward the recommendations from the all-party group, I met with our Foreign Office Minister, and he is obviously very concerned, as we are. I'm a Labour Party MP, but the Conservative government are also very concerned about it. However, I personally think, and this is certainly that something came out of the discussions last week, that it may need more from the international community, not just the UK, because of our past, our colonial past. But I am very, very keen that we look forward in terms of how we can work together, how we can take this forward, looking at the recommendations, making sure that, as many of you have already said, that this isn't seen as a forgotten issue. We take this forward, but we take this forward knowing that we need to build a sustainable peace and peaceful process. Thank you so much.
Group on Kashmir for what you do and the report that you have. I think you're absolutely right. Peaceful resolution, and I think as Senator Rahman just commented on, the seated position over here was the East Timor, was the recent case according to the United Nations resolution where it can be done. So there is recent precedent where solutions can be found according to recent precedent from the United Nations. To be exceptionally fair, and this is an all-party group, I called 2 previous Labour members of Parliament. So now let me go to a Conservative representative, and if I call Baroness Seda Vasi, the former Chairman of the Conservative and former Foreign Office Minister, Seda, over to you.
First of all, Foreign Minister, it's a real pleasure to welcome you here. Foreign Minister, you'll recall you and I shared a platform nearly a decade ago as Foreign Ministers, where you did the most fantastic press conference in English, and then मैंने अपनी प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस उर्दू में की थी and I think थोड़ा सा आपको embarrass कर दिया था उस दिन को so आज I think I'll stick to my English rather than my Urdu. I think there are 3 questions that I want to ask today. As far as Kashmir is concerned, I think we would all agree that we're here in solidarity. As somebody whose great-grandparents were born and raised in Baramulla, and I consider myself as a descendant of Kashmiris. But there are 3 questions which I would like you and the panel to address today. What appetite do you feel there is in the international community to focus on this issue? There are campaigners in this room that have spent their lifetime campaigning on this issue and highlighting this issue, parliamentary colleagues as well as community activists. But what appetite do you feel that there is for this in the international community? Secondly, the UK position appears to be one of neutrality. I think it was repeated earlier that we feel this is a matter which needs to be resolved by India and Pakistan in accordance with the views of the Kashmiri people. In many ways, I would say successive British governments of whichever colour have really sidestepped this issue. And do you feel that there is any potential to move that position to a much more active role? And thirdly and finally, I suppose an issue which is very close to my heart, and that's the issue of sexual violence in conflict. Rape as a tool of war is the most horrific form of warfare, where women's bodies, and it is predominantly women's bodies, are used as a way to settle scores. The United Kingdom, especially under William Hague, led the world on making sure that preventing sexual violence in conflict became an international issue. The Prime Minister, Theresa May, has an international representative on this issue, a special representative on this issue, Lord Tariq Ahmed. And so what scope is there for Pakistan to engage with this initiative from the UK government, and specifically with the PSVI representative, to ensure that if we are going to tackle human rights, then let's start with my sisters in Kashmir?
Let's move on to another from the Conservatives. There's 2 and 2 before I go to the other side. Amjad Bashir, if you can keep your remarks to 1 minute, please, that would be very helpful.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I sit on the Human Rights Committee in the European Parliament, and on a few occasions I've mentioned the situation and the plight of the Kashmiris in that august body, only to be told that this was a bilateral dispute between Pakistan and India. I've reminded them that this is very much an international issue because there are countless UN resolutions on this subject in 1948, etc. I've counted them. I've also mentioned the fact that both sides are armed with nuclear weapons. If there was to be a conflict, it would not only impact on the Indian subcontinent, it would have an impact on the entire world. So it is an international dispute. It has to be settled internationally. And sadly, as my friends have said, in the British Parliament, this has also been the case on many an occasion. When I mentioned this, I was denied access to India. A party of parliamentarians from Europe were visiting India. I was refused a visa. I wanted to ask a question, because you very eloquently, through the chair and yourself, Foreign Secretary, you've highlighted the abuses taking place. You've highlighted the use of pellet guns and an indiscriminate high-velocity weapon, which is not aimed at anything. It's a scattergun, which aims and blinds and maims thousands of people. And its use should be banned. Secondly, the use of rape as a weapon to intimidate the population is obviously abhorrent and wrong. The question I come to is this. We very successfully brought an end to a dispute which had been going on for centuries, the question of Ireland, through an interlocutor, an independent interlocutor, Senator Mitchell, who was to bring a Good Friday Agreement which brought an end to that situation. Would you and would Pakistan welcome an international august body, an individual, to mediate, to bring about a resolution to this dispute? Thank you very much.
Andrew, thank you very much for sharing with us. Can I now find it on this side? Go over to Mir Mohammed Atiq, who represents the MQM. So you've got a minute and a half, but we're running short.
Thank you very much. Just start straight away. We all here today, our motive is just one, that we realize the fact what is going on in Kashmir. Now it's high time. We have already talked too much. As our minister said, that we should move in the direction with our action, and our action should be just one-liner, that we are going to show the real face of India, what they are doing in Kashmir today regarding the human rights violation. This is it. If we are capable enough to do it, That is the real thing, what we can give to the Kashmiris. They have done lot many things there. So what we can do is this: we are going to raise the voice, and the voice will go all over the world. Thank you very much, especially the parliamentarians here and the August Parliament. We all are thankful to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. An example of brevity at its finest. Thank you. Can I now move over to my left and call His Excellency, the President of Azad, Jammu and Kashmir, Sadar Mohammed Masood Khan, and thank you for receiving the many different parliamentary delegations that visit Muzaffarabad and Azad Kashmir, and the one we had in 2017. So to you, sir, you've got 11 minutes.
11 minutes.
11 minutes.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
I suppose so. So, Honorable Foreign Minister, who delivered a keynote address, other distinguished parliamentarians present here today, fellow panelists, it's a pleasure for me to talk to you face to face. Thank you, Honorable Rahman Chishti, for organizing this conference. At this moment, I also want to recognize the relentless, consistent efforts that have been made by the diaspora community of the United Kingdom over the years. And they have been working with and working on the Parliament, the House of Commons and the House of Lords. So thank you on behalf of the people of Jammu and Kashmir, the people of Azad Kashmir, and the people of Indian occupied Kashmir for your campaigns. Well, this, as many speakers have said, is a sacred premises because this parliament is called the mother of all parliaments. So your conference here today is going to be important, both substantively and symbolic. And let's hope that this is the beginning of a worldwide campaign for the realization of the right to self-determination of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. While I was preparing my remarks for this conference, I thought of associating the struggle of Kashmir with the history of the United Kingdom. And I went back to the darkest hour in your history, and that was between June 1940 and June 1941. The dark hour, 363 days. And when Sir Winston Churchill talked to you in this very parliament, he said he had nothing to offer to the nation but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. And yet through your determination, you won your freedom and you safeguarded your independence. Let me tell you that for the people of Jammu and Kashmir, this dark hour has spread over 200 years. First under the subjugation of the Dogra dynasty, and afterwards under the occupation of India for the past 71 years. I would appeal to you, all the parliamentarians, the British Parliament here, and the FCO, and the British government to come to the rescue of the Kashmiris, because this is your humanitarian responsibility. Today is a day to express our solidarity with the people of the Indian occupied Kashmir, express solidarity with the half-widows, with the victims of rape, with the families of the people who have disappeared because of enforced disappearances, the families of the victims of these killings who are now buried in these mass and unmarked graves. We express solidarity with them and we salute their courage, their determination, and their resolution to continue their struggle for freedom. As the foreign minister pointed out, and many other speakers have highlighted this aspect, that India is writing a textbook of human rights violations in the Indian occupied Kashmir. Let me tell you that when you talk about human rights violations in IOK, it sounds like a euphemism. What's happening there is that Indian soldiers are perpetrating crimes against humanity. This is genocide, this is ethnic cleansing in violation of international law, international humanitarian law, and Geneva Conventions. Let me also tell you that all is not dark and dismal. As many speakers have pointed out, the international community has spoken up. The Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights has issued a very comprehensive report, which is a damning indictment of Indian crimes against humanity. And the All-Party Parliamentary Kashmir Group also launched a report last year under the leadership of Honorable Chris Leslie, and now the baton has been taken by Honorable Debbie Abrams. Thank you so much, Debbie Abrams, for your efforts. And the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, they have issued a report, and Human Rights Watch, and Amnesty International, and Physicians for Human Rights, and Guardian, and the Times of London, and the Washington Post, and the New York Times, and Wall Street Journal, National Geographic, they're all publishing reports on massive human rights violations in the IOK. The point I want to make is that in these governments, in Brussels and London and New York and Washington, there is awareness. But the tragedy and the irony is that governments are tight-lipped. Because of realpolitik, as the foreign minister said, and because of these countries, European countries and Western countries' economic interests tied with India. Let me suggest here that these reports which have been published, let them be living, evolving documents. They should not be shelved. They should not be put on shelves. And let us take them to the 10 Downing Street, to the FCO. Let us have a debate in the House of Commons like the debate you had way back in January of 2017. Let's take these reports to the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres and to the High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michel Bachelet. Somebody raised this point, and I would say that for the United Kingdom, which is a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, neutrality should not be an option. The United Kingdom should side with the victims in the interest of the maintenance of international peace and security and for the promotion and protection of the rights of the Kashmiris. Many recommendations have been made and they have been mentioned, but I reiterate these demands. Let this conference speak to India and to the international community and demand repeal of Armed Forces Special Powers Act and Public Safety Act, which are draconian laws, which have been called lawless laws by Amnesty International. Let there be forensic investigation of mass and unmarked graves. Let the pellet-firing shotguns be banned altogether, and there should be an establishment of a commission of inquiry. We also demand that the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the Human Rights Council, and the United Nations to follow up on the report that they published themselves should appoint a special rapporteur on Jammu and Kashmir, and the Secretary General should appoint a special representative on Kashmir. Let's activate the United Nations and let the United Kingdom, as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, play a pivotal role in this regard. I would also suggest, why not? It is not an audacious recommendation that I'm making. I'm making a recommendation that let's all, global citizens, representatives of civil society all over the world, start a boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign against India. Then we also propose the 5th of February, which is marked as Solidarity Day with the Kashmiris by the people of Pakistan, people of Azad Kashmir, people of Indian-occupied Kashmir, and Kashmiris and Pakistanis living all over the world. Let this become an international Kashmir Solidarity Day for the entire international community. To my left side, Prime Minister Bondevik is sitting, Prime Minister of Norway, once a Prime Minister, always a Prime Minister. So I would say I salute him because he undertook an odyssey of diplomacy. From Norway, he went to Islamabad, to Muzaffarabad, from Muzaffarabad to New Delhi, to Srinagar, and to Bangalore to explore different avenues for a resolution of the Jammu and Kashmir dispute, because that's the root cause. India's Kashmir doctrine is kill Kashmiris, use brute force, use state terrorism to quell the Kashmiri movement. And Pakistan's doctrine is, and this is endorsed by the people of Jammu and Kashmir, that explore political mechanisms, diplomacy, hold referenda, and put the United Nations at the center. This is a clash of two doctrines, two approaches. Let me also underline, and here I want to recognize two former Prime Ministers of Azad Kashmir who are sitting on the podium, and Hamid Lone, who represents the Kashmiris from IOK, he's sitting there, and all-party Hurriyat Conference, that there are three parties to the dispute: Pakistan, India, and the people of Jammu and Kashmir. And let me underline that the people of Jammu and Kashmir are the key party to the dispute. So let me also tell you that no solution can be possible without their explicit consent. People are talking about out-of-the-box solutions. President Musharraf's formula, or they are talking about the Good Friday Agreement, or Andorra solution. I just want to caution everybody that inside the box are trapped the people of Jammu and Kashmir. So do not make any concessions at the expense of the sacrifices that the people of Jammu and Kashmir have made. I'm coming to